Well, hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're talking about 5 common shopping mistakes to avoid and what to do instead. And let's be honest, at some point we've all come home with wardrobe pieces that weren't quite right for us, or kitchen utensils or home decor items that we never ended up using or later realized we didn't even like. And those mistakes, both big and small, really add up over time and can cost us a lot of money and headaches. So today, I want to talk about some of those mistakes and call them out, because recognizing the problem is the first step towards creating real change. And then once we've looked at some of those mistakes, I want to dive in and talk about what we can do instead to cultivate better shopping habits. And I'm excited to get right into this one, so if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button below, and let's get started. Okay, number 1, and one of the biggest shopping mistakes that I see people making and that I've made myself is buying things on the spot. And when we go shopping, it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and to buy things without giving ourselves the time or opportunity to really think about them. So the next time you go shopping and you see something that you hadn't intended on purchasing, but all of a sudden realize, oh, maybe I do want or need that, I'd encourage you just to wait. Maybe you want to wait a week, a month, or even just a day. But by taking our decision-making away from the pressure of the moment, we give ourselves space to reflect and to think more clearly. And almost all of our impulse spending can be traced back to this mistake, but then also too, we can often fall into the trap of just mindlessly spending and buying things without even thinking about it. And so by not just buying things automatically on the spot without giving yourself time to reflect, I just encourage you to pause, to wait, and then to make more intentional purchases. Okay, and then on the exact opposite side of the spectrum is overthinking purchases. And this one is for my savers and the people who feel like a little part of them dies inside every time they have to spend money. Yes, it's important to buy mindfully and to think through the things that we purchase before hitting the checkout button. But I find that some of the ultra savers of the world can tend to overthink their purchases and basically just hem and haw for months before deciding to buy something. I think that after a certain period of reflecting on a purchase, it doesn't actually serve us to continue thinking about it. We need to make a decision one way or the other. Your decision probably isn't going to change between month 1 and month 6 of deciding whether or not you're going to buy a new camera, a laptop, or anything else. So if there's an item you're thinking about buying and you need it, you can afford it, and you like it, don't overthink it too much. Here's your permission to buy it if you want. Okay, and then mistake number 3 is one that I feel like we've all heard before and yet continue to make, and that's shopping without a list. And it is just a fact that if we go shopping for groceries, clothing, or anything else without a clear idea of what we're looking to purchase, we're going to come home with and to buy things that we don't need. And I get it. It can feel a little bit strict or even burdensome sometimes to sit down and to create a list of all of the things that you need to buy. But this is one of the biggest things that you can do to save money on your everyday purchases like groceries, and to make sure that you're not coming home with things that aren't going to be used. So before going grocery shopping, take a few minutes and write out your list. And then something that I like to do, especially for clothing and household purchases, is just to have an ongoing list in my notes section of different items that I have on my wish list, things that I'm considering purchasing. And then when I go to shop for my seasonal clothes or home decor items or whatever, I can just review that list at that point in time, delete anything that maybe I've thought about and no longer want, and then just focus on buying the things that I've identified as needs or wants in my home. And then number 4, and this one hits a little too close to home for me, but that's focusing too much on aesthetics. And I love a good, clean, simple look. I love beautiful things. But if you find yourself buying tons of things that you don't actually need to achieve a desired look for your wardrobe or your home, more likely than not, you're really just wasting money. The high price per wear or the low return on value for those items simply isn't going to be worth the money that you're spending. And then another aspect of this too is that sometimes we can just buy the pretty option, but not necessarily the most practical option. And so don't get me wrong on this one. I'm not saying that we need to throw aesthetic out the window or that we shouldn't own beautiful things. I actually think we should. But what we need to focus on is combining both form and function. We can't just have beautiful things and just have practical things. Ideally, we want to combine the two. That way, when we look around us and see the items in our home or in our wardrobe, we're surrounded with things that we both use and love. So yes, absolutely, let's focus on the aesthetics, but not to the expense of considering practicality. And then our final shopping mistake is just automatically buying the convenient option. Before we really dive into this one, obviously there are times when the convenient option is the one to go with. You don't need to research what kind of bread or apples you're going to get before you buy them. Feel free just to purchase them and move on. But for those items where your personal taste and preferences really do have an impact, I'd caution you against just automatically buying what's most convenient. And the reason for that is that when we just buy the easiest option available, it often leads to purchasing regrets because we're often compromising on durability or quality or even just how much we like something. And a great example of when I recently made this mistake is that I really wanted just a comfortable pair of black shorts that I could lounge in this summer. So I just went right into a store and walked out with a pair of shorts that I didn't love, but they were okay. Well, fast forward a couple months and I'd only worn them a handful of times, and I realized that they weren't something that I wanted to keep in my wardrobe long term because I just wasn't enjoying wearing them. They fit kind of funny and weren't super comfortable for where they hit on my waist. So I decluttered those and ended up going to a couple of different stores, trying on different pairs of black shorts, and then finally finding a pair that I love and I know are going to stay in my wardrobe for years to come. And yeah, I did eventually correct the mistake I made, but I lost a lot of money on that initial pair of shorts that I bought because I was compromising and not actually researching my purchases before making them. And an easy way to tell if you're making this mistake and buying the convenient option but not necessarily the best option is just to ask yourself, do I love this? If your answer is, it's all right, it checks some of my boxes, it'll do, you're probably settling. But if your answer is, yes, I love this item, I can think of 5 different outfits that I can wear this piece with, or I know exactly where this can go in my home, then you probably do love it, you're not settling, and you can feel free to purchase that item. The key with this one is that if you're looking for something specific, you don't want to settle for something that you'll later regret. Okay, so those are 5 of the biggest shopping mistakes that I've made and that I see people around me making all the time. And we've talked about this a little bit already, but now I just want to talk about, okay, what do we do instead? And I think the biggest thing that we can do to really begin to cultivate better shopping habits is just to find balance. We want to be thoughtful and intentional with our purchases without obsessing over them or agonizing about whether or not I should buy something. We should value form and function. We want the things we own to inspire us and to be beautiful, but to be practical and useful on a daily basis as well. And we should value quality and accessibility. We don't want to settle for purchases that we'll later regret, but at the same time, if you go to the beach and forget your pair of flip-flops, just buy a pair. They might not be the best quality, but just enjoy the experience of being on vacation. Accessibility and buying what's convenient certainly has its place too. And I know that practicing these things and finding balance is easier said than done. But like any great habit we want to create, it's all about making good decisions on a routine basis, one step at a time. So the next time you go to buy something, just ask yourself, am I being intentional about this purchase? And do that every time you make a decision until you begin to cultivate that habit of finding balance. All right, well, hopefully this gives you a bit more of an idea of not only what some of the common mistakes that we make when shopping are, but also what we can do about them. But now I would love to know, are there any shopping mistakes that you make or that you see people around you making that I didn't mention here? Be sure to comment those down below. I would love to hear about them. And if you enjoyed today's video but haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. It's something small that you can do, but it really helps my channel to grow. And of course, if you're new around here, hit the subscribe button while you're at it for new videos every single week. And finally, make sure to follow me on Instagram too if you aren't already. I'm at Ashlynne.Eaton on there. It's always linked up in the description box too. And I'd love to have you join our community on there. We've got some really fun stuff coming up. That's everything I've got for you today. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.